Paris, the city of light, a place of art, romance, and timeless beauty. But beneath that elegance lies another Paris, one of secrets, ambition, and risk. And on a quiet Sunday morning, that darker side of the city came alive. At precisely 9 a.m., a mechanical ladder truck rolled up to a side entrance of the Louvre Museum, the world's most famous temple of art and history. Four men stepped out, dressed like maintenance workers. To anyone watching, they looked ordinary. Reflective vests, gloves, helmets, the tools of renovation. But they weren't there to fix anything. They were there to steal from the most secure museum on Earth. Within 4 minutes, they would pull off what French media would call the heist of the century. And when it was over, France's crown jewels, symbols of its royal past, would vanish without a trace. This is the story of how four men turned the Louvre into a crime scene, embarrassed an entire nation, and left behind a mystery that still haunts investigators today. The museum staff were preparing to open for another busy day. The corridors of the Louvre were silent, the air still. The only sound was the gentle hum of cleaning machines echoing off marble walls. Outside, the streets of Paris were calm. Few noticed the ladder truck that parked near the Galerie d'Apollon, one of the Louvre's most treasured sections, home to France's royal jewels. The men on board moved with precision. Two remained by the truck, while the others raised the mechanical ladder toward a first-floor window. They worked quickly, using battery-powered disc cutters to slice through the window frame. Sparks flew, glass cracked, alarms stayed silent. The room they entered was no ordinary gallery. It was one of the most ornate in France. Gilded ceilings, mirrored walls, and showcases filled with jewels once worn by emperors and empresses. The thieves didn't hesitate. They smashed display cases, threatened guards, and grabbed whatever they could. In total, they took 9 items, pieces encrusted with thousands of diamonds and gemstones. Among them was a brooch that once belonged to Empress Eugenie, wife of Napoleon III, and a pair of emerald earrings. But the centerpiece, Empress Eugenie's crown, slipped from their hands. It was found later on the ground near the getaway vehicle, apparently dropped in their rush to escape. As the thieves fled, they set fire to the ladder truck, covering their tracks before speeding off on scooters through the narrow streets of Paris. 4 minutes to humiliate one of the most secure institutions on the planet. No one was injured. No alarms had sounded. And when the smoke cleared, 9 priceless pieces of French history were gone. By midday, the Louvre was surrounded by police and reporters. The museum was shut down, its entrances sealed. The world watched in disbelief as footage spread across news networks. The Louvre, the crown jewel of France, turned into a crime scene. But behind the scenes, investigators were already facing a grim reality. Tracking down stolen jewels isn't like finding stolen art. Paintings and sculptures are unique, easy to recognize, and nearly impossible to sell. But jewels? They can be broken apart, melted down, or sold piece by piece. Once cut, a gem becomes untraceable. Christopher Marinello, an attorney who specializes in recovering stolen art, put it bluntly. "These criminals don't care about history," he said. "They only care about the stones. Once the jewels are broken down, they're gone forever." Within days, over 60 investigators were assigned to the case. They combed through camera footage, border records, and black market networks. But the clues were minimal. The robbers had left behind almost nothing. It quickly became clear that the thieves knew exactly what they were doing. They struck during a renovation period when certain alarms had been temporarily disabled and some security systems were under maintenance. It was a perfect storm of timing, precision, and luck. Museum staff later revealed that they had warned management for months about security flaws. Elise Muller, a Louvre employee and union leader, told reporters, "We sent alerts again and again about safety issues. We were ignored." And today, what we feared has happened: looting and pillaging. For many French citizens, the theft felt symbolic, not just a loss of jewels, but a wound to national pride. The Louvre wasn't just a museum. It was a symbol of France itself, a guardian of its art and identity. And now, that symbol had been violated. As the investigation unfolded, comparisons began to emerge with one of the most famous art thefts in history, the 1911 theft of the Mona Lisa. Back then, an Italian handyman named Vincenzo Peruggia simply hid inside the museum overnight and walked out with the painting under his arm the next morning. For 2 years, the Mona Lisa was missing, and its disappearance made it one of the most famous works of art in the world. But this time, the thieves didn't want fame. They didn't want glory. They wanted money. Experts suggested the stolen jewels could have been smuggled out of France within hours. Once across the border, they could be taken to Antwerp, Tel Aviv, or Mumbai, cities known for underground jewel markets, where stones could be cut, resized, and sold without a trace. It was a grim race against time. Every day that passed made recovery less likely. Marinello explained, "You can hide gems anywhere, in coat linings, luggage, even inside shoes. Once they're cut, customs can't detect them. They can pass through any airport in the world." Weeks passed. The investigation dragged on. Police raided warehouses, questioned suspects, and followed tips across Europe. But the trail grew cold. No arrests, no leads, no jewels. For investigators, the frustration was immense. The operation had been so clean, so fast, that it seemed almost unreal. 4 men, 4 minutes, and a museum that spent millions each year on security, outsmarted by a ladder truck. Theories began to emerge. Some believed it was an inside job, that someone with knowledge of the museum's weak spots had helped the thieves. Others suspected a well-organized European crime syndicate specializing in high-value jewel thefts. Whatever the truth, the result was the same. The jewels had vanished. Months later, as the story faded from the headlines, experts began to reflect on what the heist revealed about modern museums and their vulnerabilities. Marinello warned, every museum that houses gold or jewels should rethink its security. They need vault-level protection, not just glass displays. He pointed to the Tower of London, home of the British Crown jewels, as an example of the security standard others should follow. The Louvre, he said, was not alone. Smaller museums with less funding are even more at risk. If thieves could hit the Louvre, they can hit anyone. The Louvre itself underwent a massive review of its own protocols. For a time, parts of the museum remained closed as new security systems were installed. Motion sensors, reinforced cases, and biometric access points. But the stolen jewels? They were never found. Years later, the case remains open. Interpol still has it listed as an active investigation, but the chances of recovery grow slimmer every year. The tragedy of the Louvre heist isn't just the loss of material wealth. It's what those pieces represented. Fragments of history worn by royalty, cherished through revolutions, preserved for generations. Now they're gone, possibly scattered, broken, or hidden forever. And yet there's something poetic about it. In a world obsessed with security, technology, and control, a handful of men with simple tools managed to outsmart it all. They didn't use hacking software or explosives. They used a ladder, some cutters, and 4 minutes of perfect timing. It's almost absurd, but it's real. For France, the heist became more than a crime. It became a mirror, reflecting vulnerability, complacency, and the illusion of safety. Because if even the Louvre can be robbed, what can't be? In the end, the jewels may never resurface. The diamonds may now sparkle on other rings, the emeralds mounted in new necklaces, their origins forgotten. It's a reminder that history isn't always lost through war or decay. Sometimes it's lost through ambition. Sometimes it vanishes quietly in 4 minutes on a Sunday morning in Paris. Even now, as tourists fill the Louvre's corridors, gazing at the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, and the winged victory of Samothrace, few realize that just a few rooms away, there once stood an empty case, the ghost of a crime too perfect to trace. The Louvre has since rebuilt its image, resecured its treasures, and reopened its doors to millions. But the questions remain unanswered. Who were those men? How did they know exactly when to strike? And why, after all these years, has not a single trace of the jewels ever reappeared? Perhaps they'll resurface one day in a pawn shop, a private collection, or a black market deal gone wrong. Or perhaps they're gone forever, scattered dust from a crime that became legend. Either way, the message remains clear. No place is beyond reach. No treasure is untouchable. And sometimes, the greatest crimes don't happen under the cover of darkness. They happen in broad daylight, right in front of our eyes. This was the Louvre heist,